He's been a Pro Bowl quarterback in the NFL for 10 years, but there's more to this guy than just throwing touchdowns. He's lived with triumph and tragedy in his life, including a son who fights a daily battle against cystic fibrosis. And he's here to talk about that and football and other things. I'm very happy to welcome New York Jets quarterback Boomer Esiason. Boomer, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Roger.
Did he slip on the goal line last week? That pass looked pretty good to me. I thought you laid that in there just about right, and it looked like he lost his footing right on the goal, right in the end zone. Is that what happened?
Well, I guess that's what happened.
I mean, I couldn't see it. But
I'd like to sit here and tell you that it was interference, it was the official's fault, but we can't do that. No,
yeah.
No, to be honest with you,
I couldn't tell if he got. It was a great football game, and I thought that was a heartbreaker to lose. I was watching the Jets game last Sunday, and I'd watched the fourth quarter, and I thought you were bringing them back really well, bringing them up the field. It was a heartbreaker, and you tossed it in the end zone. I thought, got it, and then.
Well, that's one of those things. The week before we played against Buffalo and played a great game, and,
right.
and this game against Green Bay was that same type of game. And I know the way the Buffalo Bills players felt after we beat them is how we felt after we lost to Green Bay. But the NFL is such a difficult league to play in.
Yeah, because on any given Sunday, if there's one, can you tell if your team's clicking or not? And do they click for a whole game, or can you fall apart for 3 quarters and then suddenly say, hey, boys, I think we got it?
Well, that's the one thing about the NFL is that you might not play so well for 3 quarters and then find yourself in the game at the end of the game, and you still have to have the presence of mind to react to situations and also overcome the adversity. And the one thing I will say about our team is that we've found ourselves in that situation many times this year and have come out of it fine. And that, to me, is the true sign of a good football team. So we got a long way to go. We still have one of the better teams we feel in the AFC. And heck, we'll be there at the end. I can almost guarantee that.
What is the psychology of a good quarterback? I mean, it seems to me, besides being a team leader and being smart and being able to read defense and having the physical skill to move around it and get rid of the football in time and pinpoint the pass and all those things you have to be able to do, that there's something else to it. There's a quality that's required of a good quarterback that's a little above and beyond.
Well, I think it's emotional stability, really, what it comes down to. Politicians think that they have it tough. Well, they don't know what it's like to be a quarterback on a Sunday afternoon after the game's over, and you have to deal with the media, and you have to deal with all the questions and the innuendos and the perceptions. And
why'd you throw that interception?
Right, and they don't understand that. And in this country, everybody's looking to place blame, and it's easy to blame the quarterback because he's the guy that sticks out, especially on our team. And that's fine. You have to be able to handle all of that. You have to be able to handle the adversity. You have to be able to handle the browbeating. You have to be able to handle the talk shows, the people that are on TV, the people that are on the radios, the people that call into the radios. You have to be able to handle success, and you have to be able to handle the adverse situation as well. And
you said something very interesting. In this country, we look to place blame. I hadn't heard anybody say that, but that's really what's going on, isn't it?
Oh, it's unbelievable. And
I mean, everywhere, in every walk of life, it's who did it, who screwed up, who's wrong, who's bad.
Right, and in the individual sports, they don't really do that. Like, if it's Andre Agassi against Boris Becker, they would never say Andre Agassi did this wrong, Andre Agassi did that wrong. They just say, well, it was a great match, and Boris Becker outplayed Andre Agassi. Mm-hmm. But in the team sports, they always looked at some player on that team or some coach lost that game. When I'm in the ultimate team sport and it takes all of us to win, it obviously takes all of us to lose as well. So you have to be able to balance those things, and you have to be able to balance them professionally and not take what somebody might say off the field personally, because if you start doing that, then that's going to affect the way you play on Sunday.
I wouldn't do well in that sport. I mean, I'd be in more fights during the week than on Sunday afternoon. I mean, yeah. I'd be punching out reporters and doing all sorts of things. You've got to really grow up and be an adult in that game very quickly.
You have to be a professional, and in this city, more so than any other city.
Yeah, this city's the spotlight's on you.
Right, and when I was in Cincinnati and played for the Bengals, we basically had 2 or 3 beat writers. Maybe every now and then a guy would come down from Dayton or Columbus and say, so what's happening? This in here, you have about 15 to 20 press people that follow your every move during the season every day. And after your practice is over with, you have to deal with those people. And they all have their own.
When nobody was looking, did you ever grab one of those guys and pull him up real close and say, listen, you little creep?
Well, there's no question that I've had my problems in the past. Everybody has, I think. But I've been able to separate the professional from the personal.
Right.
And I think that's what has kept me around so long. And I realize that the press, the media in this country have a job to do. And the only problem I have with any of that is that there's a lack of accountability, I think, on the other end. We're held accountable on our performance on Monday through Sunday to the next game by everybody.
Right.
By coaches, by fans, by media, everybody. But who is the media person held accountable to when he or she distorts the facts or puts in an editorial line in there? I mean, who are they held accountable to? Nobody. So there's a little bit of that goes on, but you have to be able, like I said, just to separate it, be professional about it, accept your medicine, and go on and not take it personally.
A couple more football questions, and I want to move on to another part of your life. You're in the second year of a 3-year contract, right? How many years you got left? Are you hurt anywhere? How many, are your joints all working?
Oh yeah, everything is fine. I guess it all depends on who you talk to. If you talk to the people who don't like the way I play, you would think that I'm done now. But if you talk to the people that like the way I play, they will tell you that he's a competitor, he fights, he's tough, he doesn't miss any games. You'd like to think that I have 2 or 3 more years left, but I don't know.
Did Sims have any more time left?
Oh, sure he did. He definitely did.
Yeah, I thought so
He
too.
was in great physical condition. He was a young
mental competitor, tough competitor.
Yeah, and part of the job is mental toughness, and not a lot of guys possess that. That's why not a lot of guys go on for long careers at this position. It's difficult, and you have to have the mental stability to be able to handle it. And there's no question that I have that. I definitely have that ingredient.
We've got to take a break, 30 seconds. When you see a guy who's about 800 pounds running right at you, do you think you're going to get hurt? I mean,
No.
do you think about it?
You can't think about it because it affects the way you play. You go on, and there are times in those games where you're going to take it right under the chin.
Boomer Esiason, he's a great quarterback, and he's also a great dad. We're going to talk to him about that right after these messages. Stay with us. We're just talking about Cincinnati. That was Boomer as a Bengal. I love Cincinnati.
Oh, I'll tell you, it's a great town, and I had 9 really wonderful years there, and no regrets whatsoever.
Terrific town. I grew up in Ohio, so I'm partisan. Your son Gunnar is how old now?
He's 3 years old.
And when did you discover that he had cystic fibrosis?
When he was 2, actually. We actually had him tested at age 1, and we had a false negative come back.
You knew something was wrong with him?
We knew something was wrong, and we were counting on medical experts in the field to test him, and we found out that it was a faulty test that was given to him, so we basically suffered for an extra year, and then finally took him to the proper diagnostic center and got the proper diagnosis with the proper doctors and the proper people, and lo and behold, it was obviously the worst day of my life.
What was wrong with him what would a parent look for that might have a child with cystic fibrosis? How was he responding?
Well, there are unique characteristics of cystic fibrosis, but then there are also those characteristics that might mimic asthma or allergies, which is what, after our first test with Gunnar, we went through the whole allergy testing, the asthma testing.
Was he having trouble breathing?
Yeah, he had wheezing, he had constant ear infections, constant colds. There's a part of cystic fibrosis that people don't realize, that it also affects the digestive system as well as the lung function. And it's all intertwined together, that these children do not absorb vitamins and proteins and carbohydrates correctly because because their digestive system is blocked by the mucus as well as their lungs. And it only stands to reason that if they don't get the proper nourishment, that they're going to be run down and they're going to be sick. So your child will have ear infections, will have colds, will be very thin, will have a distended stomach. It will look like a child that is not eating properly, malnourished. All these things are a sign of cystic fibrosis, but we were not experts at the time, so we didn't know. And lo and behold, we didn't even know that we had the gene in either of our families.
It is genetic, and certain parents are carriers, and some have it, and some don't.
Right, exactly. I guess the marriage that my wife and I have formed is 1 in 400 marriages, statistically. are a marriage of two people that have this problem. Now, I had no idea that I was a cystic fibrosis gene carrier, and neither did my wife. There are over 300 different mutations of the cystic fibrosis gene. The gene was located back in 1989, and the progress that we have made in this particular field has been amazing and rapid, to say the least, in the last 10 years.
Did that create any psychological problems for you or your wife when you realized that you were the carrier?
Yeah, you sit there, and here I am, a professional athlete who has relied on his body for his entire life, and my body's been very good to me.
Right. And you would have no reason to think anything was...
Exactly. You would never even think, and lo and behold, here we are bringing this child into this world with this problem, and your immediate feeling is guilt. I mean, you're just like, how can I have done this?
But if you had it to do over and you had a choice between having Gunnar with you...
Oh my God, Gunnar is the spice of my life. I mean, he is the greatest thing that has ever happened to me, along with my daughter Sydney, who is not affected. But you get dealt this hand, and my life hasn't been smooth by any stretch of the imagination. My immediate reaction also was to retire from football.
Really?
Yeah, because you're just like, oh, what can I do? I got to dote over this child. I got to be there for him every step of the, And
it's my fault somehow. I have to be there.
I think every parent goes through this.
Did it create stress between you and your wife?
No, not at all. As a matter of fact, it kind of galvanized us, if anything. And then I realized after that first 45 minutes of guilt and all this other stuff, but wait a minute,
I got to deal.
I got to do this. I can't turn my back on this. I got to go out and fight this thing. And that's the way my life has always been. And I've taken this thing on the last 16 months, including my family and my wife and all of my friends. We have this unbelievable network of friends that have taken this issue on and that have gone berserk with it, if you will, to create awareness, to create fundraising, and to do this in the name of Gunnar. And I don't know any other way to go about it but to be full steam ahead, to be educated, to educate others, and to become its worst enemy.
Well, you were always a great offensive fighter, so I guess you'll overtake this and win it. How has, now that you know, how do they treat Gunnar, and does it make his life more comfortable? Is he in pain? Is he in difficulty? Is he going to have trouble when he goes to school? What's going to happen?
Well, he actually is in school now, and
3 years old.
He's 3 years old, and he's in preschool. And the thing about it is, you don't want to socially retard your child because he has this disease, and he is susceptible to colds and other children's colds and things of that nature. But we don't want to ever hold him back from his social development. He goes through therapy twice a day. He goes through a chest physical therapy where we actually bat on his chest for about 25 minutes in the morning and then 25 minutes again at night.
Trying to get the mucus.
To loosen that mucus, and it's good that he coughs. You'll hear CF children coughing. You'll say, oh my God, listen to that cough. No, that cough is the body's natural defense reaction to get that mucus out of his lungs. We don't want that mucus sitting there. He goes through prevental treatments where he actually wears a mask, and he breathes in different types of steams to help thin that mucus. And then, lo and behold, about a year ago, a great breakthrough was brought out. A drug by the name of Pulmazine was brought to the market to help thin the mucus in the lungs, and that has made a significant impact in his life, and I know in other CF patients' lives. So, you wouldn't even know that he was sick unless you heard him cough, and he doesn't even act like it. And the greatest thing about CF patients that we have seen and that I have found is that they are touched. They are beautiful children. They have beautiful skin tones. They are unbelievably intelligent, and they never complain. It's an amazing thing.
You don't think all this medical treatment will have some impact on him psychologically, or do you think he's rolling with it pretty well?
He rolls with it, and we learn new things every day from Gunnar. He is. I guess I'm the professional football player, and I think children probably look up to athletes as heroes, I'm no hero. I'm just an athlete that goes out and gets paid very well for what he does and what he loves. My son is the hero. My son has been dealt a hand that he had no, cause in, basically. He didn't start this. He didn't ask for it. He was given it without any warning, and he is the hero that's fighting for it.
More with Boomer Esiason right after these messages. We're back with a great quarterback, Boomer Esiason. Where'd you get the name Boomer? I'm sure you've answered this 1,000 times, but my viewers may not have heard it.
Well, it goes back a long way before I was born. When my mother was carrying me and she was pregnant, I used to kick a lot.
You're kidding.
They used to call me Boomer before I was born.
Before you were born.
I guess if I was a girl, I would have been Boom Boom. Or Boomette.
Yeah, Boomette.
Right.
We were talking about cystic fibrosis, and you've set up a foundation for Gunnar, is that right?
Well, really what it is, it's an all-encompassing foundation. It's the Boomer Esiason Heroes Foundation. And basically what I've done here is I've tried to get a level as to what the effect Gunnar has had on the local area of fundraising. And you know, I don't pay any salaries. Every dollar that we do raise goes bottom line right to research. We are
phone numbers aren't. Go ahead.
Oh, okay.
But phone numbers. I want them to note that if you want to contribute.
Right, and it's we are a direct partnership with the National Cystic Fibrosis Foundation. They endorse us 100%. I think they too realize that Gunnar has had an immediate impact on their awareness and fundraising campaign. And locally, I just want to get a feel for what it is. And it also gives me an opportunity to allow all of our family and friends to get involved and become a part of something. And I can't, like I was telling you before, I have such a long list of allies, people that I have grown up with, people that I went to college with, people that I've met through the NFL, that it's unbelievable. And they're coming at me from all different ways. And this was a way for me to organize a group of highly powered, energetic people to help fight this thing, and it's been unbelievable.
If people are watching this program outside the New York area and want to get involved in cystic fibrosis, how do they do that?
Well, the easiest way, Roger, would be for them to call 1-800-FIGHT-CF, and they'll get the national headquarters, which is down in Bethesda, Maryland. You know, and I can't even tell you how great a group they are. They were one of the more focused fundraising groups because it's basically run by parents of children with CF. One of my very, very dear friends, Frank DeFord, who lost a child to CF, was one of the people that I immediately called when we found out about Gunnar, and he's been my ears and eyes, so to speak, through this whole thing, this landmine of genetics and all of that. And he is a very, very big supporter of the National Foundation, and it's really been a great thing to be a part of.
Yeah, he's been a guest here on this network. Is the prognosis good for cystic fibrosis? In other words, in terms of what's going on in research today, do these dollars tend to go to research, and are they moving down the trail?
Oh, it's been phenomenal. Like I said, in the last 10 years, just alone, what they've been able to accomplish has been unbelievable. But every 6 months, there's a new development. And not only in terms of curing the disease, which will become a genetic transfer, or gene therapy, if you will, which they've actually even started human trials, which is unbelievable. But there's another aspect that I think is even more frightening to the overall medical community, and that's the bacteria that these particular patients develop, and all types of bacteria are developing resistance to our antibiotic medications. And there's research that is going on as we speak to develop next generation antibiotics to fight these bacteria strains, which in my estimation is the greater problem for the medical community, because it's going to affect millions of people if we don't get a handle on this. So it's all intertwined, and I would say that, you know, conservative estimates, you know, between 5 and 10 years, but the ever-developing research and the money that is happening is making things happen quickly.
Boomer,
Roger,
good luck to you.
Appreciate
How are you guys going to do this season?
We're going to be there at the end, I can tell you.
All right.
All right.
We'll take you at your word. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you again tomorrow night.